Hi, Meghna. Thanks for joining us today. For the benefit of our audience, maybe you could quickly tell us a brief introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. Yeah, just for everybody that's curious, I'm Meghna. I'm a graphic designer, illustrator, dancer. I do a little bit of everything. I'm a little weird in that creative space. I don't like to be labeled too much, but by profession, I am a graphic designer. I am from India, grew up there, then moved to Singapore at 18 to study a little bit of a foundation of design at LaSalle College of the Arts. And then in 2014, I moved to Toronto and did my bachelor's 4 years degree in graphic design at OCAD University here in Toronto. And I've been here for about 7.5 years. And I'm currently working at a PR and advertising agency and
Okay.
painting on the side, dancing on the side. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. That does sound like a fulfilling life out there.
Yeah.
But a couple of things stand out, I think, from what you just told us. So let me start right from the beginning. You were studying in India, but you decided to pursue a program in the arts in Singapore, right? So help me understand that choice. What is it that, gave you an inkling that, you wanted to study arts and also that you wanted to do this in Singapore and not in India or some other place?
So I was one of those lucky people that have always known that the creative field is the only thing I was going to get into. As a 10-year-old, I'm going to quit school and paint. That has just been my story. And my parents have been the most open-minded people on the planet. They've just like, you do whatever you want. As long as you've thought it through, that's all matters. And so when I was sort of graduating high school, the options were basically do a diploma in design either at a Srishti college or a NIFT or like one of these Indian schools, or do the same kind of diploma in Singapore. And it was like it added up to pretty much the same kind of cost and things. So my mom and I was just like, okay, if we're going to spend the same kind of money, might as well test the waters a little bit and get a little exposure, and just see what life outside of Chennai and Hyderabad and India looks like. And so that was sort of the let's test it out kind of decision for me to move to Singapore. So yeah, the course in Singapore specifically was a foundation in communication design. So,
Okay.
and this was very similar to OCAD's first year program as well, because it was very experimental. We
Okay.
had the choice to like explore illustration, explore digital media, explore like fine arts, all of that, and then sort of bring that into the commercial visual communication realm that we were sort of going into, right? And I think this is true for any creative in any course around the world. First years are usually about tapping into all the creative sides of yourself to see what clicks,
Okay.
because like visual communication and graphic design as a commercial practice does not sort of delete the organic creative side from them. You have to have like a do something outside of work to fulfill that the creative practice to be able to be inspired to create commercial work,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that I will say between OCAD and LaSalle, both foundation, like the first years, were very experimental. We got to do a lot of collage. We got to do a lot of like organic typography experimentation and bring that into like what ads looked like in the 80s. Like people weren't using Photoshop then. People were literally
Mhm.
printing out ads and like placing layout on paper and things like that. So really understanding the foundation was very important.
Correct. Correct. Okay, so we'll deviate slightly here and get into your choice a little more. Uh, I mean, the creative art, as a stereotype, is seen as a good passion area, one that you do in your spare time as a hobby, as something that drives you during free time. But I think at least in India, most students and parents are still wary about making a career there, right? So with that background, how did you approach? What was your thought process on the same thing? Were you confident from day one that hey, this is a field that will offer me a fulfilling career, or was there this gnawing doubt about will it work out or will I have to change streams?
Yeah. In all honesty, there was no doubt. There
Yeah.
was I've been in art class since I was 4 years old. That is the art and dance are two things that I've done consistently, you know. And in school, I did all of the art competitions, won all of them, did
Okay.
like design the school's like yearbook covers, design all the magazines at school, did all the posters and like things for our like houses and things like that. So it was a little bit of a no-brainer because I was helping people with creative ideas, even though it wasn't a career then. And I do
Right.
think there is space to say that like the Indian education system does not make it the
Absolutely.
greatest space to explore creative ideas. And if the pandemic has taught us anything, like the arts and the creative realm are what have kept people alive, whether
Sure.
it's like you've been bored and you've picked up a hobby that's in the creative space, or if you've binge watched like 5 Netflix shows or explored like a new language, or whatever it may be, it's the arts and like the creative realm that have kept society going. So there is a lot to say about that. So I never had any doubt. My parents never doubted anything. I think they were like, if she doesn't do this, what else is she going to do, in life? So
Right.
it was one
Right.
of, yeah, there was
Okay.
no backup plan. There were never backup colleges. They were like, I
Okay.
want to do this. That is pretty much it.
Tell us more about your cohort at LaSalle, specifically in terms of what happened after the course got over. Because we know that you then sort of moved towards Canada and a postgrad. But I mean, was that a choice that most people make, or did people then enter jobs, or what were outcomes like for other people in your cohort?
So yeah, so everybody there was, again, it was a mix of international students, lots from India, lots from like the other Asian countries as well, and of course like many locals as well. And I will say like a lot of people I know from that program completed the degree there. Like it was basically a 1 year foundation, and then you could go into a 4 year program with like a
Right.
last 2 years in Goldsmiths University in the UK. So
Yeah.
I was pretty much looking at, okay, if I'm going to do 5 years here, I wasn't super happy there, and it just felt like OCAD was anyway the end goal, because I had applied the year before, but I was put
Okay.
on wait list, so I didn't get in. And so I was
Okay.
like, okay, if I'm going to do this, my portfolio is stronger by a year. I have a foundation now, and in long term, like life, whatever the plan was to go to Canada and settle there, or like come here and then decide if I wanted to go to the US or whatever, right? Like just open myself up to North America as an option. So I applied to OCAD again, got in. So it was either do 4 years here and do a 5 year full degree, including the LaSalle 1 year, or stick to LaSalle, finish 3 years there, and then go to the UK and then do 2 years. But the
Okay.
issue there was everybody going to the UK was being sent back after their degree. So there wasn't
Right.
like a foresight like plan of, okay, is this sustainable for me in my life? Which is what made me choose coming here
Okay.
instead. And in all honesty, I will say finances played a huge role, because the option was obviously to go to the US, but US was so ridiculously expensive for creative schools that Canada as a country and as a program and finances, like it was everything sort of checked the boxes, that it didn't end up feeling like too much of a compromise.
Okay. Okay. Um, Tell us more about OCAD, because I mean, you're saying pretty early on that was the end goal that you had in sight, at least in terms of education. So what is OCAD primarily known for? I mean, this question comes from the background that most of us in India know very little about schools in Canada, and even so, more so for schools in, arts and
Yeah.
sciences, arts and humanities. So maybe tell us a little more about OCAD and the kind of programs they have.
Yeah, of course. So just to give you a little background, the reason I was honed in on OCAD was because in 2011, my mom and I visited Canada because we have family here. And then I just did like, I went to a bunch of universities, and OCAD stood out to me. OCAD is, to elaborate, Ontario College of Art and Design, but they were turned into a university many years ago. So it goes by OCAD University now, which is, it's funny that that's the name that they went with. But it's basically about 200 years old. It is the oldest creative school school in Canada, the one that has the largest creative programs per department as well.
Okay.
So we at OCAD had an art department, a design department, and like indigenous visual studies as well, because the indigenous community is extremely important in Canada, and there's a whole like degree program with like interdisciplinary arts and lots of like multimedia, different kinds of like healthcare design, that type of stuff too. So in the
Yeah.
design department, we had graphic design, which is what I was part of,
Yeah.
advertising, illustration, and then you went into environmental design and product design.
Okay.
Environmental design was a little like sustainability as well as architecture, as well as like a little bit of product design. But product design as the program, which was industrial design, is what they called it. You could go
Yeah.
into either furniture design or spatial or like UX even. With my program, they gave you a really good understanding of graphic design as a practice,
Mhm.
without the specific like pressure on making it super commercial. Because a lot of
Okay.
my classmates like have become independent multidisciplinary artists, or have become art directors at ad agencies, or have like joined studios, or have become their own independent like graphic designer practicing like freelance clients, you know. And so there was a lot of space to sort of flow into different practices, which is what I was looking for. I knew that I'm someone that thrives when I have multiple options. Only
Mm.
because like I'm not a perfectionist, but I can say that I'm pretty good at a bunch of things. Like adaptability is something that I've called my superpower, and this kind of program gave me the space to explore those kind of problems, you know, where like not every problem will have the same solution. So it makes sense to be equipped with multiple skill sets to be able to apply different things. And yeah, so like a lot of my friends who took the advertising program had a lot of commercial exposure. So they got to
Yeah.
work with actual like clients
Yeah.
and do like little competitions for pitches and things like that,
Yeah.
in like groups of strategists and copywriters and art directors. So those were these little cohorts that they sort of made. In our program, it was a lot of like individual work, obviously, but collaboration in terms of ideation and the way we sort of processed ideas and the way we go went about our projects. It was encouraged to like explore it with other people and like bounce ideas off of people and really make it your own kind of program, which was really cool. And the one thing that I absolutely loved about OCAD was the like there was space to there was obviously mandatory to take a bunch of liberal arts courses, but the liberal arts courses gave us such a great balance into like that intellectual balance between the like because we were doing such technical work that the exploring these different, like you could take an anthropology class, you could take a sociology class. I took a philosophy class. It changed my life, because like all of these different things exposed us to human behaviors and society patterns and like community design and things like that, which then brought in the human centered thinking into the thing that you were trying to make.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what made a difference between being an art kid and being a design kid. You know,
Right.
like design
Right.
you do for purpose and you do it because you live in a human world. And whether it's like people took classes in sustainability, people took classes in design thinking, you know, like strategic foresight. And I took a bunch of these classes too. It gave me a wholesome perspective into, okay, I have this artsy side, but then this is what the real world looks like. And now that you're equipped with all of these sides, you could make your own choices into what you wanted to do.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I think kind of explains even what you did right after graduation and right after finishing up at OCAD. But before we get to that, I mean I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but for Indian students coming in and possibly considering OCAD and the art as as a field of study, post grad or undergrad, what are admission requirements like?
Yeah. So I just want to say this that OCAD actually has a huge amount of Indian kids.
Yeah.
And Toronto specifically has a huge amount of Indian kids that I've seen from all over the country. So I do see a lot that has changed. Like people are exploring creative options and things like that. So yeah, the application process was very straightforward in terms of This was also 7 years ago, so this I might have changed, but basically there was this like OCAD was part of the Ontario University's admission process. So they have like a master site where you
Mhm.
could go in there, and then depending on which university you wanted, they had all the applications in one portal. So you could
Okay.
technically apply to multiple universities through the same portal. So within the OCAD portal, it depending on the program, obviously looked at the website for the program on the OCAD website itself, which basically was about like 5 to 7 portfolio pieces,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Exploring different types of media, exploring whatever you have to offer, because
Right.
basically what they were looking for is individuality. Because
Right.
that was a mistake I had made the first year that I applied. I got waitlisted because my portfolio looked very cookie cutter. Because I was trying to think, what do they want to see?
Right.
But it was not about that. The second year, I applied with like illustration pieces, some design pieces, some like sculpture stuff in there,
Oh,
and that's what got me in. So I think like showing that this is the weird kind of things that I can do is what sort of attracts any creative to see you and realize that, okay, there is some weird energy here. It can be honed in, it can be sculpted into something wholesome, potential
right.
to know that you are able to think bigger. So
Okay.
portfolio was definitely important. And then there was like you had to do like an IELTS or a TOEFL. I had just done both because I was applying to so many different places.
Right.
So that is a choice, like whatever each person is inclined towards, do one of those tests. So you needed those English results and obviously like your school results and stuff. Like your board exam results that I had to give. Because I was coming from LaSalle, I had to also show my transcripts from there, right? Because I was trying to transfer credits, but because there were such different systems that credits couldn't transfer over, but
Yeah.
it at least gave them an idea of where I stood, which was very important in that as well. That was again like additional supplementary documents, right? Like if you did come from a different college, like why are you leaving that college? Why did you want to come here? And then which obviously led to your statement of purpose, which I
Okay.
guess was the main important thing as to why do you want to come here? Like why do you want to get into the creative field in the first place? And I will say 7 years out of university, or like 4 years out of university, my answer today of why I got into design is the exact same thing that I put on my statement of purpose then.
Oh, okay. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So, but this is what I'm saying. Like, I've just been lucky to have known exactly what I wanted to do, and I knew that I wanted to get into design for community innovation. I wanted to get into design for social impact. And that was something that I can like pull it out. I can pull up the Word document from those many years ago and it says the same thing. And
mhm.
so I guess like being grounded to like spend some time finding your truth, spend some time really understanding, do I want to make pretty things or do I want to make like things that actually have an impact? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's more like figure out what your actual truth is and then apply with that you know like there's nothing wrong in saying I want to make amazing work on social media and
Right.
make like amazing trends and things like that. That's perfect. Like if you know that that's what you want to do, that's great. um but I also think that like for people who are still trying to explore different things, it's okay to lead with honesty. I think you'll be more welcomed and more mentored if you're like, I like this, but I like this, but I don't know where this could end up, but I'm willing to explore everything. Like
Right.
phrasing it with honesty, where this is what I know and this is what I don't know, but this is what I'm willing to learn, will get you further than trying to just be like, yeah, yeah, I know everything. This is exactly what I want to do.
Mhm.
um, so
Okay.
I will say that. And then I think the last of it were, I think two or three references from teachers, professors. If some people had worked already and like people were older coming into the program, if they had done internships at studios or agencies, anyone from there, either
Okay.
professional or educational mentors could be. Yeah,
Okay. Fair enough.
yeah.
Okay. Now that we've understood your academic journey, maybe we could dive into what you do for a living now. What your profession is exactly. Maybe you could tell us more about your current job role.
Yeah, I'm currently the graphic designer at Ketchum, Toronto, which is a PR and ad agency, basically communications agency. And I work between the US and Canada. I'm the only designer on the Canadian side, so it's pretty much all creative shots I call. I look over everything creative, and on the US side, there's a bigger unit basically, and we work with like a plethora of other designers, copywriters, art directors, photographers,
Okay.
you name it. And I am also the diversity, equity, and inclusion leader for Canada, which
Mhm.
is again connects back to what I wanted to do originally, and like community impact and like things
Sure.
that actually went outside of the practice, right? And so I work closely with the global head for DEI, and we do a lot of like for example, like bias training, like looking at different kinds of HR trainings for people, especially in North America, because there are different races that interact with each other, there are different power structures, there's different like levels of subconscious colonization that's sort of embedded in the way people go about it. So really trying to create a place for diversity and inclusion to be a norm and not a thing that we're trying to check off. So a lot of educational resources, a lot of like roundtable discussions that I organize, a lot of like charitable work that we can do, community work, either if it's pro bono or if it's like a service exchange, finding opportunities to even aid like small businesses that are from people of color in the societies here, or low income communities, things like that. So a
Okay.
lot of that which fulfills my soul, and then I do a lot of the regular graphic design, which is a lot of branding, a lot of like PR pitches. So that's everything from like pitching ideas for different campaigns, different like influencer programs, different um, things like infographics, a lot of data visualizations, things like that, a lot of just regular branding. So if that's like on social media, on like tactile packaging and influencer marketing packages, that type of stuff. And then we've also got like a UX team. I am certified in UX design as well. So there's that, but I haven't used it here. But I think a lot of the UX practices in terms of how research is done, how like knowledge is collected, how you're looking at target audiences, all of that is sort of transferable. So I put all of that into practice on an everyday basis. Um, and then what else? I also do a little bit of freelance work. Can you tell that I can't take a break? um, and
I can tell that
yeah,
you have a lot of hats to juggle, for sure.
yeah. But this again, like again, connects back to why I got into design. Like I wanted the space to do multiple things,
Correct.
and I am somebody that gets very bored if you just give me one thing to do.
Yes.
That's my thing. Like if I am not struggling at work a little bit, it won't I won't produce the best work. Like I need to feel a little bit of a challenge.
Okay.
I enjoy not knowing what I'm doing in every room, or in like sometimes it's nice to not know what you're doing because it pushes you to like try different things and approach things from a different perspective, and that's how you grow, you know.
Okay.
Um,
From that perspective, what's the future outlook, right? Like, where do you see your career head? I mean, one of the popular questions that most admission committees have is, "What's your long-term goal? Like, where do you see
yeah,
yourself in 2 years?"
yeah,
And so, how would you answer that question in your context, given that
yeah,
you're already doing a lot of work around different domains, different areas?
yeah.
Is specialization the thing that you look at maybe in the future, or is a postgrad on the cards? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so they all actually connect because like the freelance work that I'm doing are to help small businesses and their brands, and like really give them a platform. I do a lot of counseling for, okay, if this is the mission for your brand, this is how you could take it there. Equip
Mhm.
people with things that they didn't know, whether it's like a mom who's trying to brand her cookie company that she runs from home and she's in her 60s. I'm like, okay, but you can take this onto Instagram and you can open up a whole other marketing sort of field for yourself. So even at work, everything that I'm doing is connected to DE&I, is connected
Mm.
to social impact and community-based design, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that again I know it looks like I do a lot of different things, but there are threads that are all connected to the same thing. And so that being said, my plan is to go to grad school, and I'm
Uh-huh.
specifically looking at School of Visual Arts in New York, which has a master's program in design for social impact. And it's a 2 years interdisciplinary course that, again, you work with like real world communities, whether it's like women in hygiene or sexual assault, or like looking at education or looking at healthcare, and really looking at working with communities. And that's the step that I see for myself going forward. And as of now, I'm in that phase where, because I know the goal, I'm being a sponge and sort of soaking in everything that I can, which is what I mean when I say like I like not knowing things, because I feel like there is a relation to the ego. Like if you think you know everything, then you're creating obstacles for yourself and you're not going to grow enough. But if the outlook is you can be a 55-year-old who has a whole creative studio and is a creative director, but if your approach is I still want to keep learning, that's what makes you a good designer, if I can say that myself,
Fascinating,
you know?
fascinating, fascinating. No, I'm learning. I'm learning by the minutes a day. But no, it is fascinating to speak, to somebody who has so much clarity about what you want to do, and it's refreshing in a sense. And so, I wanted to get your views on mentorship, because that's what we do on our platform. We connect, students with mentors, and the general idea is that you might have 10 things that run in your mind, 10 queries, 10 doubts, and speaking to somebody from that field can immediately sort of clarify most of those questions. So maybe you could tell us how view this idea of ours as a network that we're trying to build, and any words of advice to somebody who's watching this video.
Yeah. I would just like to preface that by saying I was a peer mentor at OCAD for 4 years. Graduating here, I won the award for best peer mentor. So mentoring is something that's very close to my heart and that comes very organically to me, I think. So it's amazing that you guys are doing this. I think we need a lot more platforms like this, especially for careers that are outside the STEM industries, outside of the stuff that our culture just gravitates towards, because there are so many people who make a killer living out of doing creative things. So that being said, I think there's one piece of advice that I got a very long time ago is still true. I don't think will ever stop being true, is you should never stop yourself from asking questions. Don't ever think there are stupid questions to ask. If there are stupid questions, if people are telling you those are stupid questions, you're asking the wrong people.
Mhm.
I think that like that curiosity that fuels everything that you do is just the right thing for you to have. And if you're not asking enough questions, then question if you are being too comfortable in where you are,
Right, right.
which can lead to stagnancy, and then you might like in 10 years wake up and be like, oh my god, I wasted so much time. So make it okay to ask questions. So reach out to people. It's okay to reach out, and like it's not as nerve-wracking as you think it is. It's like people like it when people approach them. You know what I mean? Like if you reach out to people, it's obviously like depending on who it is. If they're a shitty person, then sorry about that, but like most people will be welcoming. And so I would definitely say the one thing that I would get everybody, regardless of age, regardless of student, teacher, professional, retired, just keep asking questions.
Mm.
you know so there's that. And it's like a lot of my peers and a lot of the people that I look up to in the creative industry say to me that like if there is a studio you want to work at, if there is like a specific school you want to go to, on Instagram or on LinkedIn, find the people that go there and shoot them a message. Send them
Mm.
your work and be like, hi, this is really inspiring. I wish one day I could work at XYZ company. I would love to have a coffee chat with you or an
Mm.
informational interview.
Mm.
Just lead with honesty, lead with curiosity. And I think that itself will take you wherever you want to go.
Amazing, amazing. Very, very inspirational words. And I think anybody who's watching this interview for sure knows how approachable you're going to be. So yeah, so thanks for making time out for us today, Meghna. Wish you the very best of luck with all future endeavors, and please do stay in touch in case
Definitely.
somebody does decide to connect with you. I'm sure you have plenty of wisdom to impart.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me also.
Pleasure was all mine. Have a good day and please stay connected.
Okay. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.